Number 1. Lauria Bible and Ashley Freeman. On the night of December 29, 1999, Ashley Freeman celebrated her 16th birthday with her best friend Lauria Bible, her parents Danny and Kathy Freeman, and her boyfriend, Jeremy Hurst. They celebrated at the Freeman's mobile home in Vinita, Oklahoma. Jeremy left at around 9:30 p.m., sometime during the night or early morning hours of December 30, 1999. A fire erupted inside of the Freeman's mobile home. A concerned neighbor called the fire department at 5:30 a.m. on the morning of December 30, 1999. Lauria's parents and the police immediately canvassed the mobile home for signs of the Freeman family and Lauria Bible. Kathy Freeman was found dead, but her husband Danny Freeman's body and the two girls' bodies were nowhere to be found. An autopsy determined that Kathy had been shot to death. Arson investigators determined that the fire had been deliberately set. Police theorized that Danny Freeman killed his wife Kathy and abducted his daughter Ashley and her friend Lauria Bible. The next day, Lauria's parents went to the burned-out remains of the home, hoping to find a clue. After just 5 minutes, they were shocked to discover something that investigators had missed. Another body, burned almost beyond recognition. The body was identified as Danny Freeman. He had also been shot to death at close range with a shotgun. Ashley and Lauria weren't among Danny Freeman's remains, nor were they anywhere in the vicinity. However, another search of the property turned up an important clue: Lauria's purse, which was left behind with her driver's license and $200 inside. This suggested that the girls might have been abducted. It also led police to rule out robbery as a motive since the money was left behind. There were no suspects in the case, but 3 months before his death, Danny had told his brother Dwayne Vansell that should anything happen to him, to look into the Craig County Sheriff's Department. The alleged feud between the department and the Freemans began when Danny's son, Shane, was shot and killed by a deputy after he stole a truck and a neighbor's gun. Although the shooting was ruled justifiable, Danny was planning to file a wrongful death lawsuit against the department just before the tragic fire. The sheriff's deputies volunteered to remove themselves from the investigation and turn the matter over to the Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigation. The deputies cooperated and passed polygraph tests. The sheriff's office was later ruled out as being involved in the case. Another theory speculated that Danny Freeman was a small-time drug trafficker. According to an informant, Danny had met with 2 unidentified men 2 weeks before the murder. One of the men was apparently not welcome there. However, that theory did not fit well with the girls' disappearance. It would seem unlikely that the killers would abduct the girls instead of just kill them at the scene. Others believed Ashley Freeman killed her parents because of friction between her and her father, but authorities believed that the girls couldn't have hidden out for long if that theory was to be believed. Lauria's family also does not believe that either girl would be capable of murder. No trace of Lauria Bible or Ashley Freeman has ever been found. There is a $50,000 reward offered in the case. A death row inmate, Jeremy Jones, confessed to killing Danny and Kathy Freeman. Jones claimed he took the girls to Kansas, shot them, and threw their bodies into an abandoned mine. A search of the mine, however, turned up nothing. Jones then recanted the story. An arrest report showed that he was arrested at 4 a.m. on the morning of the fire, more than 18 miles away. However, investigators and Lauria's family believe he may have been involved as he knew some details of the crime that were not released to the public. Another man has also confessed to the murders and abduction. However, his confession was not believed to be credible. The Freemans and Lauria were recently featured on cold case playing cards in hopes of generating new tips about the case. Sadly, Ashley and Lauria have never been found. Ashley was declared legally dead in 2010. Ashley. Number 2. McStay family. When a family of 4 vanished without a trace in 2010 months after moving into a new house in the San Diego suburb of Fallbrook, California, it looked like a missing persons case. There were no bodies and no answers. 3 years later, in November 2013, a motorcyclist stumbled upon a skull in the Mojave Desert and called investigators who, soon after, uncovered 2 graves. The McStay family had been found. But what happened to Joseph McStay, 40, his 43-year-old wife, Summer, and sons Gianni, 4, and Joseph Jr., 3? Authorities think they've caught the killer, who is awaiting trial. and the family has a theory about motive. Here's what to know. On February 9, 2010, Joseph's father, Patrick, received an email from a business partner of his son saying that he hadn't heard from him. The following day, Troy Dugal from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department checked on the two-story home where the family lived. He found no sign of foul play in the empty residence, only evidence of a family's everyday life: paint cans in the kitchen that they were renovating, a carton of eggs on the counter, and 2 small bowls of popcorn on the futon in the living room. "That's weird," Dugal later recalled, thinking, "It was like 2 kids were sitting there eating popcorn, and then they were just gone." The family's 2 beloved dogs, Bear and Digger, were left behind in the backyard, and nearly $100,000 remained untouched in Joseph's bank accounts. "He ran a successful decorative fountain business," said Joseph's younger brother Michael. "It's just not like them to walk out on a business, walk out on money, walk out on a home. It doesn't make sense," Lieutenant Dennis Bruga from the San Diego Sheriff's Office told People in 2011. "When you have people drop out of society, it's usually for a reason. They're having money or family problems. In this case, it looks like they were planning for the future." The McStay's whereabouts were finally confirmed when a motorcyclist riding through the desert above Victorville, California, came across a weathered skull and called police in November 2013. That discovery led to 2 shallow graves containing the remains of Joseph, Summer, and sons Gianni and Joe Jr. After the McStay family went missing, Patrick wanted to speak to his son's friends, even if it meant possibly speaking to the killer. He had a list of people he thought could have harmed his son and his family. One of the names was Charles Chase Merritt, a former business associate who worked with Joseph and helped with his company. "I didn't have proof and I didn't know it was definitely him," Patrick told People in 2014. "I had direct contact with him, so I had to try and keep that contact open to see what I could find out." Patrick's suspicions were validated when Merritt was arrested on 4 counts of murder in November 2014. "It's all about money," Patrick told People after Merritt was taken into custody. "That's what I believe." During a preliminary hearing in June 2015, detectives testified that Joseph's body was found with a white extension cord wrapped around his neck. Summer's skull was fractured and one of their sons' heads was bludgeoned 7 times. According to testimony, a sledgehammer was also found buried at the site. Additionally, detectives testified that DNA matching Merritt was found on the steering wheel of the McStay's white Isuzu Trooper, which was found abandoned near the Mexico border days after their disappearance. According to the San Bernardino Sun, prosecutors alleged Merritt was a gambling addict who committed the crime for financial gain and wrote thousands in checks on Joseph's business account for days after he disappeared. The trial has been delayed due to Merritt's failure to retain an attorney. As of February 2016, he had reportedly gone through 5 attorneys and attempted to represent himself in court twice. Merritt, who has pleaded not guilty to the 4 counts of murder he faces, is eligible for the death penalty should he be convicted. He remains in jail without bond and will stand trial for the killings in early 2018. His attorney, who could not be reached for comment by People this week, has previously told reporters there is no evidence that links his client to the slayings. Number 3. Murky Waters. Monday marks 16 years since the disappearance of 16-year-old Molly Bish from her lifeguard post at Comins Pond in Warren. Her body was not found until about 3 years later, in a wooded area in nearby Palmer. Bish's abduction and murder remains unsolved, but the Worcester County District Attorney's Office recently announced that there will be new DNA testing conducted in the case, which could happen as early as September. The new testing will allow scientists to check samples that had previously been disregarded as evidence. Since Molly's disappearance, her parents, John and Magi Bish, have become advocates for missing children, establishing the Molly Bish Center for the Protection of Children and the Elderly. The center, located at Anna Maria College in Paxton, provides child identification and school safety programs, and works to support the families of victims. The Bish family has also been advocating for the passage of Molly's Bill, legislation that would redesign Massachusetts license plates to incorporate symbols, in addition to the current letters and numbers. The belief is that by doing so, license plate combinations would be easier to identify quickly, increasing the chance that witnesses can remember them. Number 4. Rachel Louise Cooke. Cooke was visiting her parents' home in the North Lake subdivision of Georgetown, Texas in early 2002. She was on winter vacation from her school at San Diego Mesa College in San Diego, California. She was last seen by her family at 8 a.m. January 10, 2002, when her mother left for work. Cooke was still asleep at this time, on the couch. Cooke departed from her family's residence for her daily 4-mile run during the morning hours that day. Sometime after her mother left, she is believed to have started her run at approximately 9:30 a.m. She was carrying a bright yellow Sony Walkman portable radio, cassette player with headphones. She was last seen between 11 a.m. and 11:30 a.m. near Neches Trail, which is just 100 to 200 yards from her family's residence. Cooke never returned to their residence and has not been heard from again. She was missed at 3 p.m. that day when her father came home to take her shopping and could not find her. Witnesses told authorities that an unidentified male was driving a late-model white or blue Chevrolet Camaro or Pontiac Trans Am with white or black stripes along the hood and the trunk in the area of Cooke's disappearance. He was reportedly speaking to another female jogger at the time. The man is described as being in his late teens to early 20s with slicked-back black hair. He was dark-complected and may have been Hispanic. Some witnesses reported seeing two males inside the vehicle, which traveled along Navajo Trail and turned southbound onto Neches Trail. Sketches of the unidentified male are posted below this case summary. Some witnesses claim to have seen two men inside the car. Authorities are also searching for information concerning a white pickup truck that was seen in the North Lake subdivision on January 10. The vehicle may have had a wide dark-colored stripe across its lower portion. Witnesses stated that the sports car and the truck stopped along the road to speak to the jogger shortly after Cooke's disappearance. A sketch of an unidentified male reportedly seen near the female jogger is posted below this case summary. Investigators announced that one of the possible unidentified witnesses contacted authorities voluntarily 1 week after Cooke vanished. The individual was cleared of any involvement in her case. In August 2006, Michael Keith Moore confessed to Cooke's murder. Photographs of Moore are posted below this case summary. He stated he attacked Cooke while jogging, knocked her unconscious, drove her somewhere and raped her. After murdering her, he wrapped her body in a tarp, weighted it with rocks and threw it into Matagorda Bay. Moore has an extensive criminal history and has spent nearly all of his adult life in prison. His father stated he began to get into trouble with the law at the age of 13, and many of his known offenses involve sexual misconduct and/or violence. At the time of his confession in Cooke's case, he was already in police custody after being convicted of murdering a pregnant woman. He agreed to plead guilty to Cooke's murder in November 2006 in exchange for a sentence of life in prison, but in court Moore reneged and pleaded not guilty in Cooke's case. Moore told the media he had been toying with authorities when he confessed to killing Cooke, and that he got special treatment in prison in exchange for his cooperation. He stated he had nothing to do with her disappearance and the police should have known that. Prosecutors announced that he will go to trial for Cooke's murder. Her remains have not been found, but investigators believe Moore's confession was accurate. Cooke was an accomplished cross-country runner at the time of her disappearance. All of her personal belongings were left behind at her family's home, where her parents and younger sister then resided. Her father died of natural causes in November 2014, at age 59. At the time of her disappearance, Cooke was a student at Mesa Junior College in California and was planning to transfer to a college in Los Angeles, California to study fashion design. She has no history of leaving her family home without warning. She always left a note saying where she would be going. Foul play is suspected in her disappearance due to the circumstances involved. Number 5. Susan Walsh. On July 16, 1996, 36-year-old Susan Walsh hurriedly dropped her son, David, off at her estranged husband Mark's house. Although she didn't say where she was going, she claimed she would return within a few minutes, but she never did, vanishing into the streets of Nutley, New Jersey. Although authorities believe that she chose to disappear, others believed she met with foul play, possibly murdered by mobsters, dying of a drug overdose or vanishing into the local strange subculture of sex and danger. From her early childhood, her dream was to be a poet and a writer, but a broken home and unhappy childhood made reaching her goal a constant struggle. By the time she was in her 20s, she was an alcoholic, drug addict and stripper. Stripping helped pay her way through college, but she still kept her dream in mind. She graduated in 1984, and began cleaning up her act. By 1988, she was 4 years sober, married, and a devoted mother. According to her friend Melissa Hines, the two things that were most important to Susan were her son and her job as a journalist. She and her husband eventually separated, and in order to support David, she went back to stripping. Ironically, stripping provided the critical boost to her journalist career. She eventually got an internship at New York's freewheeling Village Voice, researching the sex industry. She soon found a great story about Russian mobsters in New Jersey who were allegedly forcing young Russian women to work in strip clubs like slaves. She earned praise for her article, but she also received threats and felt she may have made enemies. Her next project may have also placed her in danger. In the early 90s, bizarre vampire clubs began appearing in New York's Greenwich Village, boasting a wealthy clientele, many of whom claimed to be real blood drinkers. She started researching this vampire world, even dating a man who claimed to be part of the undead. She wrote a detailed article about vampirism, but she apparently believed too much into it and became upset when the Village Voice did not run her story. In June of 1996, a month before she vanished, her career was again on an upswing. She had done primary research for The Red Light, Inside the Sex Industry by James Ridgway and Sylvia Plackey. However, the night of the publisher's party, James noticed that her wrists were bandaged. He learned that, along with cutting her wrists, she was taking tranquilizers and had started drinking again. She however brushed it off and said she would get help if she thought needed it. By then, Susan was back to dancing, and during a documentary made by an old friend, Jill Morley, she talked about the toll that stripping had taken on her life, and how it was difficult for her to hold on to even life. She told Jill that she had bronchitis, emphysema, and an ulcer. She also said that she had been to the hospital twice that week. She also said that she had mood swings and was depressed. 2 days after Jill last saw her, she mysteriously disappeared. It was believed that she collapsed from depression and poor health, but police realized that if that were the case, her body would have been found by now or she would have surfaced in a hospital. Her family and friends believe her continued absence meant that she was deceased. James Ridgway believes that she may have overdosed and someone disposed of her body. However, the authorities decided that for some unknown reason, she chose to disappear. Detectives have spoken to several people who have claimed to have seen her, including one of her old friends, Melissa Hines. Melissa claims that a month after she vanished, she saw her next to a black car, and when she yelled her name, she and the men she was with got into the car and drove off. The license plate number was tracked down, and the driver said he believed that he was with her around the time she was spotted, but he could not be certain. Melissa believes that if she is alive, she may be deliberately hiding out because she was in danger and that the mob was after her. Before she vanished, she and Melissa were followed several times. To this day, nobody knows what really happened to her. Interestingly, the month of July was ripped off of Susan's wall calendar. Some believe that this was purposefully removed to cover up an appointment that she may have had that day. However, no one knows for sure. The case remains unsolved. In 2006, investigators stated that they were now certain that Susan was murdered. They believed that she would not abandon her family, especially her son, and go years without contact. They are currently investigating several possible suspects, including her ex-husband Mark Walsh and ex-boyfriend Billy Walker. Number 6. The story of Brianna Maitland's disappearance. As the 12-year anniversary of the disappearance of Brianna Maitland, a 17-year-old girl from Montgomery, Vermont, approaches, the ongoing search for her received a boost Friday with the airing of a segment about her on the Investigation Discovery cable channel. Maitland was last seen at about 11:20 p.m., March 19, 2004, leaving her job at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, town just south of the Canadian border. Her car was found a short distance away the next day near an abandoned farmhouse on Route 118 in Montgomery. Police have said there is no evidence that Maitland willingly left the area. The investigation into her disappearance has remained active by Vermont State Police. The Investigation Discovery piece on Maitland, titled "Vanished in Vermont," appeared Friday morning on the cable channel's Disappeared program. The segment was originally broadcast in 2012, but was repeated at 9 a.m. Friday. It features a recreation of events leading up to her disappearance and has interviews with her mother and investigators about the case. Immediately after the program concluded, there was a spike in Google searches using the term Brianna Maitland by people seeking more information about the case. Searches appeared to be primarily in the Vermont and New Hampshire area, but some were also made by people as far away as California and Texas. Although she has been missing for now more than a decade, Maitland's family and friends have not given up hope that she will be found. They maintain a Facebook page in her memory and regularly make posts regarding her case. Her family is offering a $20,000 reward for any information that leads to answers. The reward includes $10,000 for information that leads to locating her whereabouts, and $10,000 leading to the arrest and conviction of those responsible for her disappearance. Vermont State Police are also offering their own reward of $5,000 for information that leads to the arrest and conviction. Police said they remain optimistic they will solve the mystery.